Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. All right, you guys, peep game. All right, man. Let's talk about this whole Andre Ward, Canelo Alvarez thing. Now, I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna be quite frankly with this, and it just got to be said. First of all, shout out to Blue Blood Sports TV. I heard him discuss this, and I'm gonna give my own interpretation of a possible showdown between Andre Ward and Canelo Alvarez. And I'm just gonna give people the real. At the end of the day, I would have liked this fight maybe if they had discussed this about 2 years ago. But Canelo was just doing what he does best, throw names out there. But I don't think Canelo really wants a fight with Andre Ward. And basically, Andre Ward is punking Canelo. He basically saying, okay, well, I'll come out of retirement and I'll fight you if you're serious. But my thing is with Andre Ward, I don't want Andre Ward to sell his O. Okay. Andre Ward done some great things as a fighter, and that zero that he has means just as much to me as it does to him. But I know Dre believe in himself, and he wouldn't consider taking this fight unless he believed he could win. He doesn't know how to lose. But I'm looking at Canelo, and if Canelo does go through with this fight, Canelo would just show you that he just a flat out coward and he a cherry picker. And he ain't an all-time great. Because this is what you call maneuvering. There's a whole bunch of fighters out there that Canelo could fight. And let's be realistic. Andre Ward, once again, has not fought in 4 years. Okay? As good as Andre Ward was, we got to be realistic. That would not be smart for Andre Ward to come out of retirement and try to fight Canelo. Okay? Still, Andre Ward would need at least a tune-up fight. Or two, maybe. So realistically, we're not talking about this fight happening until sometime at the very least, maybe early 2022. I doubt very seriously they could even get this fight to happen this year. Like I said, best case scenario versus worst case scenario. Like I said, best case scenario, if they could probably pull this off, it would be the end of the year. Like I said, Dre would have to go into training, like I said, immediately. And Dre walks around at 210 pounds. So you still talking about Dre having to come down to 170, 175. Once again, you talking about him taking a massive weight loss to make a fight. Or Dre would have to fight, at least this particular fight, Dre might have to take a fight at cruiserweight. Or a catchweight fight somewhere between 180, maybe 190. So for real. Now, don't get me wrong. Dre is in good shape, but he's not in boxing shape. Don't get me wrong. People still talk about Andre Ward because, he's seen on ESPN. But like I said before, Andre Ward, let's be realistic. Like I said, I'm going to say this with Floyd. Floyd couldn't come out of retirement at age 44 and try to go into a fight with Manny Pacquiao because Floyd would lose. As good as Floyd was, let's be realistic. Floyd would more than likely get beat. Manny Pacquiao would be an overwhelming favorite. Once again, Floyd hasn't fought in 4 years a professional fight. And if you want to consider Conor McGregor a professional fight, Floyd technically hasn't had a real fight with an actual boxer in almost 6 years. I mean, we have to be realistic, people. We have to stop like playing these games. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not one of these people that's not being realistic. Yes, Andre Ward would still need a tune-up fight or two to get him prepared for Canelo. You talk Canelo is an active fighter. You talk it don't matter how big or big enough y'all think Canelo is. Okay? Doesn't matter how big Andre Ward is. Once again, he has not fought in 4 years. Once again, he would have to get himself prepared to get back in boxing shape. And a lot comes with getting yourself in boxing shape versus regular shape. Conditioning, strength, you know what I'm saying? You know, proper eating regimens, all that kind of stuff. And for y'all, if y'all think Andre Ward could just come out of retirement, get back in the ring and beat Canelo, you know, you're not being realistic. Yes, Dre would all likely win the fight. But yeah, you talking about him, like I said, having to go through a lot of things. It's very difficult to train and prepare yourself for a professional fight. They're trying to, you know, make certain weights ain't as easy as people think it is, because that's been proven time and time again, you know. And then here's the thing with Canelo. If Canelo would fight Andre Ward, he'd have to let Andre Ward have no stipulations, no weight rehydration, none of this stuff. I mean, it has to be a real fight. No Canelo trying to manipulate the contract by putting these stipulations in there. Because to be honest with you, I'm just going to keep it 100. Like I said, to me, this just looked like a cowardly move by Canelo for him to try to go after a dude that haven't fought in 4 years. What does that do for Canelo's resume? That's going to be the biggest but people go, even if he was to win the fight, people going to be like, come on, Canelo, you fought a dude that hadn't fought in 4 years. And people could say, and then the thing is with Andre Ward, on the flip side, Andre Ward could say, well, hey, I needed more time. You know, I got caught up. I got the itch to fight again. This not going to help Canelo. It's not going to help Canelo. This is not going to elevate Canelo to all-time greatness if he fights Andre Ward, because it's going to go fit into what people been saying. Canelo always looking for an edge. That's going to really make people say Canelo ain't as good as he thinks he is, or other people thinks he is. Like I said, man, this shit just got to be said. Like I said, we got to be realistic. I don't see that fight happening. I think Canelo has too much to lose, because let's just say Dre does fight Canelo and he beats Canelo, and let's just say he humiliates Canelo like Floyd Mayweather did. He's a bigger version of Floyd Mayweather. And Canelo don't have the footwork. I'm just telling you, he's not going to be able to beat Andre Ward if Andre Ward has actual time to prepare for this fight. But if he tries to say, oh, well, you got to go directly, you know, you got to go directly into training and get in the ring with me, it's going to be like, okay, here Canelo goes again. Trying to maneuver, trying to manipulate the contract. And another thing, don't bring up nobody else. We talked about Canelo, Andre Ward. Don't bring up no fighter, no other instance, none of that shit. We're talking about Canelo, Andre Ward. I'm breaking it down. Why that fight, in all likelihood, isn't going to happen. And what would it take to make that fight happen? And to me, if I was Dre, you still have to worry about what happens when you fight Canelo. Or are you going to actually have a legit chance to win this fight? Will the judges be in Canelo's pocket? Will this fight be judged accordingly? I'm just keep I'm just keeping it 100. It's just a lot of things that come with fighting Canelo. But yeah, I don't see this fight happening. I doubt very seriously that this fight gonna happen. But if it does, hey, you know, as long as Andre Ward has proper time to prepare for this fight, Canelo don't got a chance against Andre Ward. But if Canelo tries to say no, no, we have to fight within 3 months, then Canelo once again looking for an edge. I mean, once again, let's make it an even playing field. So that's all I have to say about that. This your boy Tail Biz about